The year is 1986. The air inside Meadowbrook Nursing Home is thick with the scent of disinfectant and something else, a lingering sadness. The silence is often broken by the clatter of meal carts, muffled sobs, and the occasional outburst from a resident struggling with the twilight of their years. The staff, hardened by years of witnessing the fragility of life, move with a practiced efficiency, their smiles often failing to reach their tired eyes. Meadowbrook, like many such homes, houses a tapestry of lives, each resident a story etched in time. It is here in this microcosm of life and loss that our story unfolds. The nurses' station, a brightly lit island in this sea of fading memories, is a hive of activity. Robert Heath, a man whose weathered face bore the map of a life well lived, was the storm that raged within Meadowbrook's placid walls. His room at the far end of the east wing was often bypassed by staff who had learned to avoid his wrath. He was known to hurl insults with the same ferocity as he did his bedpan. Robert's days were marked by a bitter symphony of complaints. His anger, a shield against the pain he refused to acknowledge, kept everyone at bay. Yet beneath that gruff exterior, behind those eyes that seemed to hold the weight of the world, resided a flicker of something else. Only Sarah, a young nurse new to Meadowbrook, sensed this hidden depth. Sarah, fresh out of nursing school, stepped into Meadowbrook with a heart full of idealism. Her optimism was soon met with the harsh realities of Meadowbrook's East Wing and its most infamous resident, Robert Heath. Her first encounter with Robert was a baptism by fire. Assigned to his room, Sarah entered with a cheerful greeting, only to be met with a string of expletives. Robert saw nurses as symbols of his failing health and dwindling independence. Sarah, I'm here to help you, Mr. Heath, whether you like it or not. Undeterred, Sarah persisted, speaking softly and respectfully. Her quiet strength seemed to momentarily disarm him. Days turned into weeks, and Sarah found herself increasingly drawn to Robert's case. His defiance, while challenging, intrigued her. She spent her breaks researching his file, trying to piece together the man behind the anger. She learned of his service in World War II, of a wife named Elaine, mentioned with a reverence that hinted at a love profound and lost. Robert, however, remained resistant to her attempts at connection. He built walls of silence and rage, pushing her away at every turn. Sarah, here's your apple pie, Mr. Heath. I thought you might like it. Yet, Sarah noticed small cracks in his armor. Moments when his eyes, usually blazing with anger, would soften, revealing a glimpse of vulnerability. She saw it when she brought him his favorite apple pie, a treat she'd discovered tucked away in his file.
One afternoon, as I was changing his bedding, Robert surprised me by asking about my family. It was a simple question, asked without his usual venom, and it caught me off guard. So I told him about my parents, my siblings, my dreams of one day opening a clinic in my hometown.
For the first time, Robert listened. He asked follow-up questions, his curiosity tinged with a sadness that tugged at Sarah's heart.
That evening, as I finished my shift, I felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps beneath the layers of anger and pain, a spark of the real Robert Heath still flickered. It was a daunting task, but armed with my unwavering empathy, I was determined to try.
Robert's childhood was a study in contrasts. Born in the heart of Brooklyn, he was the youngest child of immigrant parents who had crossed the Atlantic with dreams of a better life. His father, a stoic man with calloused hands and a heavy accent, worked long hours in a steel mill to provide for his family. His mother, a gentle soul with eyes that had seen both hardship and hope, filled their small apartment with the aroma of her homeland cooking. Robert, however, was a restless spirit, ill-suited for the confines of their tiny flat and the drudgery of school. He preferred the company of stray dogs and streetwise kids to the confines of classrooms and the company of books. He was quick with his fists, quicker with his wit, always testing boundaries, always seeking adventure. It was at a school dance, the air thick with the scent of cheap cologne and teenage angst, that Robert first laid eyes on Elaine. She was a vision in a pale blue dress, her laughter like the tinkling of wind chimes. She was different from the girls who usually caught Robert's eye, quieter, more thoughtful, with a gentle grace that captivated him instantly. Elaine, to everyone's surprise, seemed equally drawn to Robert. Perhaps she saw something beneath his rough exterior, a vulnerability he hid well from the world. They began spending time together, stolen moments amidst the chaos of their lives. Elaine, with her quiet strength and unwavering belief in him, had a calming effect on Robert, a grounding force in his tumultuous world. The news of Pearl Harbor shattered their world like it did for so many others. Robert, swept up in the wave of patriotism that gripped the nation, enlisted without hesitation. Elaine, her heart heavy with fear, hid her own anxieties and stood by him, her love a beacon in the darkness that lay ahead. They wrote each other every day, their letters filled with longing and hope, a lifeline across the vast expanse of the ocean. Robert, facing the horrors of war, clung to Elaine's words, her love a shield against the despair that threatened to consume him. He carried her photo with him everywhere, a talisman against the brutality he witnessed. Robert returned from the war a changed man, forever marked by the things he had seen and done. Robert returned from the war a hero, decorated for his bravery, but forever haunted by the ghosts of battle. The things he had seen, the friends he had lost, left an invisible scar on his soul. Sleep offered no escape, his nights plagued by nightmares that left him drenched in sweat, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. Elaine, ever patient, ever loving, was his solace. She coaxed him back from the brink of despair, her love a balm for his wounded spirit. She understood his silences, his sudden bursts of anger, recognizing them for what they were, echoes of a war that refused to release its grip on him. With Elaine by his side, Robert slowly began to rebuild his life. Life settled into a comfortable rhythm. Robert, with his quiet strength, provided for his family. Elaine nurtured their two sons, instilling values of kindness and respect. Their small house became Robert's sanctuary. He built furniture, each piece a testament to his love. Sundays were for church and family dinners, filled with laughter. He found peace in the love of his family. The years passed, marked by the milestones of family life. Graduations, weddings, the arrival of grandchildren. Robert, his hair now streaked with silver, his face etched with the lines of a life well lived, delighted in his role as patriarch, dispensing wisdom and love in equal measure. But time, that relentless sculptor, had begun to chip away at their happiness. Elaine, her once vibrant health fading, was diagnosed with a heart condition. The news struck Robert like a physical blow. He had faced enemy fire without flinching, but the thought of losing Elaine filled him with a terror he had never known. He refused to accept the doctor's grim prognosis, pouring all his energy into caring for Elaine, clinging to the hope that his love could somehow will her back to health. Robert, lost in his grief, retreated into himself, building a wall of silence around his broken heart. His sons, their own lives, busy with families and careers, tried to reach him, but Robert, unable to articulate his pain, pushed them away. He moved through life like a ghost, his once vibrant spirit extinguished. The house felt empty, the silence deafening. He stopped going to church, stopped caring for himself, finding solace only in the bottle. The burn of cheap whiskey, a poor substitute for the warmth of Elaine's love. It was his sons, their concern overriding his resistance, who finally convinced him to move into Meadowbrook. Robert's arrival at Meadowbrook was met with a mixture of trepidation and weary resignation. The staff, having heard whispers of his legendary temper, braced themselves for the inevitable storm. And a storm he was, though not in the way they expected. Robert's anger was a quiet tempest, a simmering resentment that manifested in muttered curses, refusals to cooperate, and a stubborn silence that seemed impenetrable. He treated the nurses with a detached disdain, his eyes holding a perpetual storm cloud of bitterness. Medication was refused, meals left untouched, and any attempt at conversation met with a grunt or a glare. He was a fortress, his drawbridge permanently raised, the gates firmly locked against any intrusion.
Moments of grace.
Sarah's shifts became a delicate dance between Robert's unpredictable moods and her own unwavering determination to reach him. She learned to read the subtle cues in his body language, the tightening of his jaw, the clenching of his fists, the faraway look in his eyes that signaled a retreating tide of anger.
She discovered that music, particularly the big band tunes from his youth, had a calming effect on him. She would hum along as she worked, her soft voice a soothing counterpoint to the clanging metal carts and the hushed whispers that echoed through the hallways. Sometimes Robert would tap his foot to the rhythm, a flicker of a smile playing on his lips.
There were moments of grace, unexpected and fleeting, when Robert would let down his guard.
Silent understanding.
Sarah never pushed, never pried. She offered Robert her presence, a listening ear and a heart that understood unspoken grief. She saw beyond the grumpy exterior, recognizing the lonely man beneath.
She anticipated his needs, bringing him apple juice and an extra blanket. She spoke to him with respect, addressing him as Mr. Heath.
Slowly, Robert began to respond, his gruff demeanor softening. He would look at her, his eyes holding a flicker of gratitude. Their bond was something neither could fully explain. It was a connection that transcended words, a silent understanding.
The request, when it came, caught Sarah completely off guard. Robert asked if she would take him to church the following Sunday.
A flicker of his old defiance crossed Robert's face, but then he surprised her by offering a rare, sheepish smile.
Elaine and I, we used to go every Sunday. Haven't been in, well, let's just say it's been a while.
The following Sunday, Sarah arrived early to help Robert get ready. He insisted that Sarah be the one to help him dress. The church, bathed in the soft glow of stained glass windows, was a haven of peace. Sarah watched as Robert seemed to draw strength from the familiar hymns and prayers. The church visit marked a turning point in Robert's journey. His defiance dissipated, replaced by quiet acceptance. He spoke often of Elaine, his memories infused with bittersweet longing. He described her laugh, her touch, the way she silenced his demons.
Sarah listened patiently, letting his memories wash over him.
Remembering Elaine kept her alive, holding on to the love that defined his life. As weeks turned into months, Robert's health declined rapidly. Sarah continued to visit, drawn by duty and growing affection. She knew the end was near and wanted to ease his passage. The news of Robert's passing hit Sarah hard. A wave of sadness washed over her, a mixture of grief and relief. He was finally at peace, reunited with Elaine. As she tidied up Robert's room, her gaze fell upon a folded piece of paper. It was addressed to Sarah in Robert's shaky hand.
Curiosity warred with reluctance as she held the letter. She hesitated, then carefully drew out a single sheet of lined paper.
"Dear Sarah," the letter began, and Sarah could almost hear Robert's gruff voice, softened by time and regret.
"I'm sorry for any days I may have been hard to handle. It was nothing personal, just know that."
Robert's words, stark and honest, cut through Sarah's sadness, revealing a depth of emotion she had always sensed but never fully grasped. He went on to describe the pain of Elaine's loss, a pain that had become his constant companion.
"The hurt I feel is the smell of Elaine when she would get out of the shower, or her perfume when we would go out to eat."
As Sarah read on, a profound understanding washed over her. Robert's anger wasn't directed at the nurses, but at the cruel twist of fate that had robbed him of his soulmate. He had built walls of anger to protect a heart still raw with grief.
"You, Sarah, have showed me a different love, one that demands friendship."
Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she absorbed the weight of Robert's words. The letter ended with a simple, "I thank you for your friendship. Love, Robert." Sarah sat there for a long time, the letter trembling slightly in her hands. Robert's story, a poignant reminder of the enduring power of love and the devastating effects of loss, would stay with her always.